11th day of the month of May 2023, and it's another day here on set, of course, Rise and Shine Daily. Welcome once again. My name is Janice Cobham.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Accra, Ibom State. My name is Uyai Anyeka, and life is a beautiful gift. We take it one day at a time. No matter the ups and downs that we see, make sure that you are not the battle you are facing. Of course, I would like for you to be following us across all social media platforms. You can find all of that at spectrumtv.ng. Our phone lines will be displayed in the course of the program. Feel free to call in and make your contributions on the show, but we are glad to always have you on the other side whenever we come to talk Nigeria.
Yeah, definitely. And I like those, words, strong words. Whatever it is you're facing, issues facing the country and Nigeria is not just the country, but the people in the country
Exactly.
itself. And I know something happened yesterday all over social media. The pressure really got worse. I don't know. I was looking out for you and your NYC uniform, and I
I
didn't
quite
see.
don't have pictures from my NYC,
Yeah.
sadly enough. I think the phone I used during my NYC got bad and I couldn't recover. Oh, we got stolen.
Yeah,
The
so I'm sure
the
you felt
memory
bad for celebrating 50
50
years of
years.
its existence, and beautiful to see. The objective of the NYSC is, to bring about unity. Of course, we know how diverse in culture and tradition and religion that we are. So the essence of the NYSC was just to create that unity bond, where of course you're from one state, you have to go to another state
Yeah.
to go do your NYSC, your service year. And it was usually a very big thing, getting to
Yeah.
wear the NYSC uniform and do all the trainings that comes with opening of camp and all of that, and then going to your PPAs and all of that. It was really
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, I didn't experience it anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
I didn't
It's a memory.
experience it,
I served in
but
Osun State.
yeah.
So and then when I served, I was teaching English. I know that I'm a language enthusiast.
Okay.
So I look like someone that speaks several languages because I can ginger. But then when I went to Osun State, one of my favorite languages is Yoruba. I now went, then how my flair and my love for Yoruba ceased. It just died a natural death because I'm like, hey, how am I going to be able to communicate with you and all of that? But it was a beautiful experience. I think that was like my first time living out on my own. And the like. So it was a beautiful experience. You get to meet people, some of which changes your life. Unity and development. It has, really been a journey. But of course, there's been several conversations of people asking, is it really worth it? I mean, there's been pushes in previous years to scrap out the NYSC program. But then there's been people that have said, no, there was a vision behind the NYSC and we would never allow someone to bring in sentiment, and spoil it. Like you said, it was something people really looked out for, right? Like, for instance, if you remember, like, our parents, I know my mom will always be like, oh, I served in Bochi, this, that, all of the memories that come with it. So it's a good one. And with the trend that went on yesterday, I believe it's very nostalgic for a lot of people.
Very. A lot of
Yeah.
people went back, tried to look for pictures
Yeah.
and bring back. I remember that a lot of celebrities also jumped on this.
Yeah.
My Superman, Davido, also was part of people, that brought out their
Oh, wow.
NYSC photographs and all of that. But just like you said, it has been conversations,
Yeah.
for the scrapping of NYSC.
Yeah.
Oh, it has outlived its objective of it being created. And I think it only came on the heels of the fact that a lot of people have died in the course of serving India national, being more like targets. When it happens during elections, core members are always targets and all of that. So when you put some of these challenges, that aside from insecurity, though, a lot more challenges. But it's a good thing to see that over the years, their alawi has also increased. I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
back then.
I think my set was the last set to do 19,500.
Yeah.
Then after that, it was now upgraded to 33.
30 something.
Yeah, so it looks good. I mean, at that level, someone who just comes out of school receiving 33,000, they might feel like they're receiving the world. But I think that emotion might be different now because of the economic realities that we have on ground, and especially because now present day reality, a lot of people are doing different things to make money. So an average young person is not just waiting for, oh, when I finish school, you know, let me go and look for a new job to do. A lot of people are handy and are earning, so they might not really be celebratory on the 33,000.
As is no small mint.
At all.
And we'll keep celebrating all our core members for sacrificing and, of course, serving the nation and bringing about national unity, which is very, very paramount and key as well. Okay, so on that note, let's go into our conversations for this morning. Of course, you know, on Rise and Shine, we get to discuss very topical issues as it is affecting the country and as prompt and timely as it comes as well. So this morning, our flash stories. Of course, we know that the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria has ordered for the immediate relocation of all aircraft stationed at the General Aviation Terminal of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, ahead of the inauguration of the new government schedule for May 29, 2023. Fans said the removal of aircraft parked at the Abuja terminal in Abuja, private jets belonging to wealthy Nigerians, firms and airlines. The relocation directive was contained in a circular dated May 8, 2023, addressed to aircraft operators and signed by the regional manager, Fan Kabir Mohammed. So many preparations. I think the other day we were talking about May 29 inauguration, and we saw that even the military was getting ready for the whole you know, celebration, the whole inauguration, and all the formalities that comes with the, you know, inauguration. And here we see the Nigerian Airport Authority too doing so much to make sure that yes, we are going to have a smooth flight landing and all of that, especially when we know how the magnanimity in which this inauguration holds, right? We have a lot of people coming in and from outside the country, you know, more like it's the whole world coming to Nigeria, converging in Nigeria for that inauguration of May 29. So maybe we would say that yes, why Fan is actually asking that there is a relocation of private jets is just to create space for the influx of the so many jets that will be coming in. And we know as well that jets do come in sizes, so we are expecting private jets that are owned by the people that have been mentioned. Where are they going to? What hangar will they use in parking the jets now?
We do hope that there's an alternative plan, because when you say you know, the owners of these jets should look for a place to repark their jets, it's open-ended. It's not like I can just take the it's not like I can just take the jet and go to my garage in my house to park event. So they're looking at not having any kinds of bridges and any kinds of interferences. That's why they're asking that these jets you know, should be moved away from the airport, as it were, so that there is space. But it's mainly because of security, to ensure the safety and security of parties involved, all parties involved. So this is why it's become necessary. Now, the managing director of Nigerian Airspace Management Agency and chief executive officer of Top Brass Aviation, Captain Roland Iyayi, he expressed concern that most of the aircraft parked at the GAT terminal at Abuja Airport are not serviceable. So so as such, he said relocating them from the place might prove difficult. So some of those you know, jets that are there are not even in like constant.
It's a means of fund generation.
So now, but that's, even though he's raising a concern, that still also raises a concern, because he's saying most of the aircrafts, you know, parking there cannot fly. So why are we not looking at rehabilitation or selling off? Or I know that that's more like in the consent of the owners, but then even you that owns the jet, you're paying every day to hang it there, but it's not flying. Why don't you, you know,
make away with it,
do away with it, make money with it, so that, you know, so that now is going to be a snag also, because they've given a date on or before the 22nd of May. All of those aircraft should be relocated. Now we'd have to see how viable that instruction is going to be. Is it going to be followed to the latter, or is it just going to be one of those statements that is made and it's not carried out fully? But this is going to be inconveniencing for the people who own them, because another reason now, for instance, so that those jets are flown to be taken away from that airspace. And we are talking Abuja. That's where the inauguration is going to be happening. And like you said, a lot of visitors are going to be coming in from that particular terminal. So we need like the space, the security, ambience, and all of that. But this is a big deal as of today. And more plans are being carried out geared towards the inauguration. Of course, we will not forget to ever emphasize the fact that the president and several other agencies in the country, even one of our guests, Jide Ojo, had said the inauguration of the president-elect remains sacrosanct, in spite of every other thing that is happening in the polity of the country.
Yeah.
That day, for most of the aircraft parked there to be moved, that is just a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem, but of course the airport authority is saying that, look, we need to create space for bigger jets to come in because people will be coming in from all over the world. But enough of that now. Let's look at a very next story, and this one has to do with the broadcast industry. Recently, we've seen that NBC has been slamming fines on a lot of media houses. I remember the last one that happened was on Channels Television for allowing the vice president, I think 50 million naira or so.
It was 5 million naira.
Okay, 5 million naira. And so the Federal High Court yesterday actually gave an order of perpetual injunction restraining the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, from imposing fines henceforth on broadcast stations in the country. Now, Justice James Omotosho, in a judgment, also set aside the 500,000 fines imposed on March 1, 2019 on each of the 45 broadcast stations. Justice Omotosho held that the NBC, not being a court of law, had no power to impose sanctions as punishment on broadcast stations. He further held that the NBC Code, which gives the Commission the power to impose sanction, is in conflict with Section 6 of the Constitution that vested judicial power in the court of law. He said the court would not sit idle and watch a body imposing fine arbitrarily without recourse to the law. He also said that the Commission did not comply with the law when it sat as a complainant and at the same time the court and the judge on its own matter. The judge agrees that the Nigerian Broadcasting Code, being a subsidiary legislation that empowers and penalties such as fine. And he also agreed that the Commission, not being Nigerian police, had no power to conduct criminal investigation that would lead to criminal trial and imposition of sanctions. It says this goes against the doctrine of separation of powers. Now, yeah, I think we are going to be looking at this, issue from both ends. Now, the good thing is, at some point, it looked as if all of the sanctions coming in, from the Nigerian Broadcast Commission, that a lot of Nigerians also thought that, okay, there's some kind of interference, especially with the comments of the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party. He had made the comments and NBC did not find anything wrong, but immediately eyebrows were raised from the APC. NBC, right?
Yeah.
Automatically now sanctioned that particular television station. But now, if the court is saying this, won't it give media houses some kind of leverage, to go overboard?
There's a tendency for media houses to actually relapse because, the NBC for the media is more like the beginning of wisdom. The
fear of NBC slams.
The fear of NBC slams, because some of those monies are to really high tunes of millions of naira that we're talking about. So you're seeing that, someone makes a mistake in their media house, a presenter does something wrong, you're paying the sanctions to the tunes of millions. So you realize that some people may be working for several years, but it's a sanction they're paying because of something they did wrong. So that in itself is a problem that conducts itself within its professional ethics. Now, we would have to compare notes with other professions in the country. How do you get lawyers to live by the ethics of, their profession without going overboard? Are there these kinds of sanctions? We need to compare notes with other, professional entities and other professional bodies in the country. How do they get their professional? When you talk money of licensing and all of those things, we are talking millions and millions of naira. When you now go to sanctions to add up every now and then, it becomes a problem. First of all, I think most media houses would appreciate what the move of the court is. It's more like a sigh of relief because when we go back to the case that had Channels Television in it, it was more like it was an unnecessary move. Like one of my argument then was that, comments was made, no issue, no eyebrow was raised, and for media houses such as this, we know that, the NBC is always constantly monitoring. So there is no way you would say that when Sheung had that interview with the vice presidential candidate, that the NBC was unaware of it, but then you had to wait for a call to be made. So it means that the NBC can also become a stooge and a tool in the hands of politicians and government.
Yes.
Exactly. But this is giving birth to a lot. If the law court is saying that the legislation of the NBC code goes against the constitution of the country, then it really needs to be reviewed. And it's surprising that before this time, this has not, hasn't come up before. It's not been a question that has been asked. I mean, the NBC code has existed for several years. How come we never knew that it was against the laws of the land to be able to have
now in a particular section?
Yeah. To be able to have an DC code was unacceptable by the laws of the land. But this is bringing a really big question, on the table. We now know that the lawyers for the NBC are going to be sitting side by side in the courts to question and litigate all of this, which means in the next couple of months, we might be expecting an upgrade and a review of the NBC code as it relates to this, because it will really need to be checked into. But then the big question now is, how can we make sure that media houses do not take this as an opportunity to go overboard? Because I think it's healthy for the media and media workers, because you just know, okay, for this is not acceptable within the confines of my profession. I can't do it. But if you say you take away the sanctions, then the human mind is just funny.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that's it on the NBC story. Of course, we'll continue to do follow-ups to know exactly what the courts will come up with,
and
at
even
the
how
end
the
of the
NBC
day,
takes
and
this.
how NBC take this and also react to it. But we are asking that media houses do not go overboard because of this sharing news, because we saw yesterday reactions to this, and it was like, oh, thank God, at last, some kind of succor is coming for the media houses. Yes.
And the court is also saying why they are looking into this is to make sure that the NBC does not become a tyrant.
Exactly.
In the media space.
In the
so
media space.
It goes back and forth for the NBC and the media houses themselves. So tyranny is what they're trying to check, but then we'll have to look for a new way to handle the issues.
Of course, yes. Okay, so we also know that the Presidential Election Tribunal is ongoing. Pre-hearing started on Monday, actually. And of course, the lawyers trying to compare notes here and there and compare documents here and there and remove what the courts or the judges say handle and not take undue time. I think that as well. So the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, PEPC, is that how it will be pronounced now? Pepsi or PEC?
Pepsi. Pepsi
Sitting in Abuja has deferred further proceedings on the petition of the candidate of the Labour Party LP, Mr. Peter Obi, which was filed to challenge the outcome of the 2023 presidential elections to May 17. Now, the adjournment followed an agreement by all the parties in the matter, cited as first to fourth respondents. In the petition, the Independent National Election and the Labour Party had immediately proceedings resumed on the matter, told the court that the parties met and agreed to ask for an adjournment to enable them file and exchange necessary legal documents. He also told the court that there were many processes and motions yet to be filed in the matter. Now, Uzoku San maintained that the adjournment would enable expeditious hearing and determination of the case. According to him, and I quote, "My lords, we met and agreed that the matter should be adjourned till next week, Wednesday, the 17th, so that when we are coming back, we will be sure that the processes are ripe for hearing. We also agreed that before then, we will meet and take decision on documents that are not in contention and documents that are controversial," Uzoku added. Now, on the part of INEC, INEC through its lawyer, Mr. A.B. Moshood. Now, this is more like an agreement from all the parties concerned. Let us see how we can bring up documents, compare notes, and then I like the fact that they want to make the process easy, you know, for the court, and it is an agreement. But surprisingly, a lot of Nigerians are seeing it from a different light. Is it because the how do I put it now? This was asked by Labour Party and Peter Obi is another thing, because they are saying that, is it that the lawyers of Peter Obi and the Labour Party were not even ready, had not done their groundwork? If they are coming up to ask for an adjournment, how dare
outside the law court, and when we are just, you know, we are not professionals in that field, so Nigerians may not know how these cases proceed and why a lawyer would say, okay, we need to take back time and reevaluate our you know, our papers, because we also see that the counsel for the APC, Prince Lateef Fagbemi San, has said his clients believe that the adjournment would hasten the proceedings. So the lawyers, the professionals are saying that this is not going to be a delay, but rather it will help hasten the process for them. Whatever reviews that they need to do, we know that it is in the best interest of the case.
Exactly.
For instance, Nigerians would really have to trust February 25th election. We have seen how diligent that they have been, you know, putting up their team, putting up the legal papers and everything. You do not expect that they will come to an important time like this and be careless with, you know, the proceeding. It would have been another situation if it were the court or, you know, for instance, an opposition party asking for the adjournment. But now it's the Labour Party tribunal. It will be important that Nigerians are not hasty with the interpretation of the proceedings until the lawyers tell you that this is what it is. It is not it, so that, you know, we don't begin to peddle wrong information on the social media and still heat up the polity. It's not a matter of be careful not to say the law courts are against a particular party because they have sought for an adjournment in the case. We trust that the judiciary know what they are doing. We trust that the Labour Party and its lawyers know what they're doing.
They understand what they're doing.
The APC and its lawyers, they all know what they're doing. And then if they say this is a collective, you know, work agreed amongst themselves, we should believe that it's in good light for the, you know, for the proceedings.
Yeah, definitely. Let's look at a particular tweet and then make reactions, and of course go to the news brief desk where Mary Joseph is standing by. But let's look at that tweet. Nigerians asking that, of course, this is from Abiodu Akoni. He's saying, breaking, we are not ready, my lord. Peter Obi's legal team moves motion for adjournment till next week, Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. One would have thought they are really passionate about this case. They started the push for the judiciary to stop the May 29 inauguration. This is actually laughable, because I think that if Nigerians are following the proceedings in court, they should be able to understand that this is not just about the Labour Party asking for an adjournment, but it is because the parties involved, from INEC to you know, the lawyers of Tinubu and APC, have come together to agree that, look, let us not waste the time of the courts on unnecessary things. Take out the one, looking at 183 days or thereabout for all of this to come and end. And just like Jido Joe was saying the other day, we've done about over 70 days already. So the remaining days now,
you really want to spend it on the most important
things. The most important things. And so it was necessary for an adjournment. Now, if the court and the judges thought that it was unnecessary to have that adjournment, trust me, they would have said, okay, let's continue with the case. Let's continue with the proceedings. But they saw that, yes, it was necessary to ask for it. There was need for it. And so they gave, you know, consent to it. So let's not
even forget that by the time you get to court, you know, and the proceedings are going, there is how you listen to the arguments of your opponents, and you know you need to get back and get some work done. The work you did before getting to the court will begin to, you know, change as the proceeding goes. You know that it's in your best interest to say, okay, I think we need to recheck our files. You gathered your files from everywhere, but you do not know the arguments of your opponent. So there might be a way you're seeing your opponent's arguments going, and you know that, okay, we need to, it's just like a team that is playing football or any other game. The referee will, you know, the coach will call and say, we need timeout. We need to discuss again. So Nigerians just need to, you know, chill.
like really chill,
Yes, we just
relax
need to
and
chill.
follow the proceedings, and don't come out on social media to get unnecessary, make unnecessary comments as it concerns the presidential election trial. Focus conversation on the excessive travelings of presidents and president-elect, and of course governance. We'll be right back shortly. Please stay with us.
As of government, Secretary General delegates.
This was the leader of Nigeria for Spectrum TV to recover 45 seats and still counting.
Good morning. You're welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum, live from Uyo. I am Mary Joseph. Starting our news brief this morning is a report that ahead of the May 29 handover ceremony to the President-elect Bola Tinubu and the Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima, letters have been sent to leaders across the globe. Recall that the President Muhammadu Buhari on February 7th signed Executive Order Number 14 of 2023 on the facilitation and management of Presidential Delta Development Commission has said it will partner the United Nations Satellite Center to find a lasting solution to the challenge of flooding in the Niger Delta region. The NDDC Managing Director, Dr. Samuel Obuku, stated this during a virtual presentation on ways of combating flood challenges in the Niger Delta region by a technical team of the United Nations Institute of Training and Research at the Commission's headquarters in Port Harcourt State. In a separate development, the Nigerian Guild of Editors has commended the Federal High Court Abuja for making an order of perpetual injunctions restraining the National Broadcasting Commission from imposing fines on broadcast stations in the country. The judge, Justice James Omotosho, ruled that the NBC Code, which gives the Commission the power to impose sanctions on broadcast stations, was in conflict with Section 6 of the 1999 Constitution that vested judicial powers in the court of law. Heading now to the foreign scene, the House Republicans have unveiled what they say are records of $10 million in payment to members of the Biden family from foreign entities. Oversight Committee Chair James Comer said Joe Biden's relative had used the family's name to enrich themselves and the president was involved. Recall that the Republican leaders had pledged to aggressively investigate Joe Biden, his administration, and also his family when they took over control of the U.S. House of Representatives in last year's midterm election. And finally, in sports, the federal government has approved the sum of 2.4 billion naira for the construction of a new National Sports Medicine and High Performance Center at the Moshood Abiola Stadium in Lagos to be completed in 2026. The Minister of Youth and Sport Development, Sunday Dare, who revealed this while presenting a memo, said one of the drawbacks of the sport development and athlete development has been the lack of high performance centers. We'll have details of these stories and more in our
Government, Secretary General, delegates.
Disasters Day in Lagos, Nigeria today as we want to recover for the lapses taken into account.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage and so much more. Advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abuse. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal.
Oh, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
You never.
My lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Rise and Shine, and we're beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. On Rise and Shine, we bring you topical conversations of things happening in the country. Mary Joseph just brought us tidbits of global news. And some of the things that we've talked about this morning on the show that you need to catch up on, the fact that the federal government has asked everyone who owns an aircraft or a jet at the Abuja International Airport to please relocate their aircraft so that they can be spaced, and also for security reasons towards the forthcoming May 29 inauguration. Of course, we also see the fact that Labour Party and Peter Obi case, several conversations that we've had this morning. One good way to catch up on all that is for you to be following us across all our social media platforms. You can find all that at spectrumtv.ng. What do I want you to do? Like, share, comment. Of course, at this point, also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, that just make sure you have Spectrum TV on the go. At this point, we'll be going straight now to Daily Spotlight, where we bring you stories from the front pages of our national dailies.
Spotlight Daily this morning repleted with a lot of interesting stories on the front pages of our national dailies. And this morning, we are starting first with the Punch newspaper. And the big story on the Punch newspaper seems that the the issue of the Senate presidency is still a big one this morning. Of course, Senate presidency, dissent in APC, aspirants demand fresh zoning formula. And the writer says APC zoning creating tension, cannot guarantee unity, Nzonaso wants. And another writer to that story says North Central Senators Rights APC chairman decries zoning exclusion. You can find details of that story on page 2. We move forward to other stories on the front page of the Punch. Subsidy, Buhari seeks approval of $800 million palliative loan, and page 19 is where you get that from. Trouble booms, and we also have ex-power minister arrested over alleged 22 billion naira fraud. 4 men on trial for killing cousin. Lagos arraigns Eze Ndigbo for terrorism. Oh wow. And NNPCL needs huge investments to meet demand, says Dangote. And those are all the stories on the front page of the Punch.
We'll move to the very next paper, and that will be the Nation newspaper. The Nation this morning, big story there says APC pledges revisit of zoning amid lawmakers' protest. Adamu pacifies aggrieved aspirants for speaker. More complaints trail recommendation on National Assembly leadership. Akeredolu calls for NEC intervention. We also see here Lagos government seals off 12 Banana Island houses. Page 27. State failed to access 46 billion naira education funds. Ubek deplores inaction. Tinubu in Europe on investment drive. Dangote Elumelu, Dangote Elumelu raids NNP. That's a real big explanation we all need to hear. That story can be found on page 6. I promise you want to look into it. So why annual budget failed to perform? There's a story there. Buhari seeks Senate nod for $800 million loan. Tribunal dismisses another party's petition against Tinubu APC. Oyetola urges Osun APC to accept Supreme Court verdict on Adeleke. Really great news right there. And that's all we have on the front page of the Nation.
Leadership now. APC hints of review as rejection greets zoning arrangement. And then we have the writer saying, we'll look at it again, says Adamu, party chair. Zoning formula reinforces injustice, inequity, Akeredolu. And another writer says, is rape of democracy, says corporate social organizations now. We won't respect arrangements, says speakership G7. As court bars embassy from imposing fines on broadcast stations. Page 26 is where you get details of that story. Tinubu travels to Europe to meet investors, fine-tune transition plans. Page 8 is where you get details of that from. And we find another story here that says Osibajo in Imo to flag off Oguta Lake Orashi River dredging project today. Financial infractions now. Senate indicts NAFDAC, NECO, 45 other MDAs. Why we are still awarding multi-billion naira contracts, says federal government. Page 26 is where you get details from. Insecurity, poverty getting worse in Nigeria, says Bishop. 27. Page 27 is where you get details from that story. Labour Party, Obi back Atiku on live broadcast of tribunal's proceedings. And the writer says court adjourns hearing of his petition as APP withdraws petition. You can find details of that on page 8. Panic as sit-at-home enforcers ban The story says panic as sit-at-home enforcers burn vehicle in Anambra State. And the last story here says angry reactions as Buhari writes Senate seeks approval to borrow $800 million from World Bank. And that's all the stories that we have on the front page of Daily Sun.
Okay, well, let's move down to Nigerian Tribune. Big story there. 10th NAS seems to be the big issue on the front burners this morning. Akeredolu adds more fuel to raging zoning fire. It says proposed leadership positions skewed arrangements reinforce injustice. Aggrieved speakership aspirants ask NWC to reverse decision on Abbas Kalu. We can't guarantee our loyalty at detriment of justice, peace, and fairness, says Gadi. Don't impose hand-picked principal officers on lawmakers. Northern Coalition tells APC. Kalu Yari seal deal. I won't step down. Izunazo. Page 2, 3, and 5 is where you can find all that story. Again, Tinubu travels out. 8 says he is to meet with investors. Page 4. Fuel subsidy. Page 5 is where you can find that story. Amotokun arrest for ever alleged murder of header in Ogun. Page 29. NEMA issues flawed alert, says Ekiti on danger list. Page 15 is where you can find that story. EFCC arrests Salah Maman, ex-power minister. Abiodun inaugurates 150 million standard cubic feet natural gas facility in Ogun. Presidential election, court dismisses APP's petition against Tinubu. LP Obi back at Tiku. PDP's request for live broadcast of proceedings. Okay. Court restrains NBC from imposing fines on broadcast stations. Editors vindicated, says NGE. Okay. Dangote Elumelu held NNPC's performance under Kyari. And those are all the stories that we have on the front page of Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, let's look at the This Day newspaper this morning. What does This Day say? Of course, unjust, targeted against some zones and individuals. And moving forward, we have other stories here that says Tinubu departs Nigeria for Europe on working visit. Of course, this makes part of our focus conversation for this morning. There's another one here that says respite has called Bars Embassy from imposing fines on broadcast stations. And of course, the writer says nullify 2019 5 million naira fines on 45 stations. And of course, if the stations had paid before, that means there's going to be some refund. So you can imagine how much million?
5 million.
5 million
for
naira now.
channels.
Yes, refund to these 45 stations. You can imagine that. Dangote, NNPC can become Africa's South. And I think that's just all the stories that we have right now on the front page of our national dailies.
Let's take our very last paper, and that will be the Vanguard. What is Vanguard saying differently this morning? Of course, still 10th NAS leadership as the biggest story this morning. Senators-elect, reps-elect move for open contest. G7 aspirants woo opposition. Members-elect, you betrayed us. Aggrieved aspirants tell Adamu NWC. Give us time to address your grievances. APC tells Wase, Betara, and others. APC's zoning formula unworkable, reinforces injustice, says Akeredolu, urges NWC to convene NEC. APC zoning templates, a Lagos affair, aggrieved aspirants. I am reaching out to other aspirants. Abbas Bajabiamila meets joint task group, an APC loyalist. Okay. UK court permits NGE Health Court for stopping NBC from fining broadcast stations. Buhari writes Senate seeks approval of 800 million loan. Okay. Foreign investors scaled down holdings in Nigerian stocks by 58%. That's a whole lot of number. We also have here headers kill 3 Benue community volunteer guards and 3 others. Presidential poll called adjourns Obi's petition against Tinubu till May 17. BVN has no expiry date, says CBN. Please, just in case the scammers have started a new move, the CBN is saying that your BVN never expires. It is one set for all. Okay. These are all the stories that we have on the front page of Vanguard.
Okay, issues and in-house wranglings as it concerns the zoning of the Senate presidency now, and of course the speakership of the House of National House of Assembly and all of those matters. I think it's something that is serious. I wonder why there's so much fuse about it. But again, just like we would say, the call for national unity and national that it's something that they have to go back again and have dialogue, more like sit on round tables and discuss the way forward, because there seems to be a lot of there seems to be just a lot of problems, you know, surrounding the zoning formula that the National Working Committee came up with, I think earlier this week or late last week now, concerning the Senate presidency and of course the speakership of the House that have been represented in all of this at this point in time. But let's just hinge on the last headline that you read out. Of
the
course,
BVN story?
yes, the BVN story. I watched a video recently, but this is just to let you know that, of course, you can be a part of our conversations, right? I was watching a video earlier on, of course, on a platform that I belong to, my alumni platform, and you know, this video pops up and some online banker, the way he describes himself, was giving like a rundown and telling us stuff about BVN, and it, for me, it all made sense at that point in time. I'm like, okay, so according to him, the BVN expires after 10 years, and of course we know BVN, so it works for people. It's not as if the BVN expires, you know, according to his story. The BVN does not expire. It is the same number that you're going to be having for life. But what he explained was that you update your BVN. Certain things must have happened to your body, you know, features and all of that. So you just have to go back again to update your BVN. And it all made sense, like the way he puts it. And then at the end of the day, he said, you will thank me later because I'm your online banker. Now, this is the problem we are having in this country. And I'm very happy that the Central Bank of Nigeria has come out to say, look, there's nothing like that, because Nigerians, we know how gullible. Notion that maybe you have worked in the banking sector before and then you're properly dressed like a banker. You have worked there before, so you have an idea of some of these things and how it works. So it is really terrible that people can actually come out and disinform the Nigerian populace just to make trends or cash out and have follows and all of that. It doesn't make sense right now. Making the numbers,
It's good that the CBN is already raising alarm, because like he said, if they have already started putting together that body of information against next year, you can imagine that towards the last quarter, careful if someone reaches out to you and they now tell you that your bank is calling you to come and
update your BVN.
Or they will now say, forward your BVN number to us so that we work on an upgrade for you. So those things are not, you know, they're not viable in this particular season. But I think projects and last minute, you know, borrowings, and we're still seeing that with how many more days to go to the handing over, President Buhari is still pushing to borrow $800 million from the World Bank. Why not rest?
Is the way you said the why not rest?
It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, but I think that Nigerians should come on board, you know, to give their contribution to this particular topic.
Exactly.
President Muhammadu Buhari is asking that the National Assembly approves a borrowing of $800 million. Now, according to him, I was just trying to read up that story. It accused to scale up the National Social Safety Net program to assist poor and vulnerable Nigerians in coping with the cost of meeting basic needs. Now, the president has also expressed optimism that the new request would receive expeditiously. That's when the conversations of subsidy removal was like very strong, right? The $800 million was set to be used to cushion the effect of what the subsidy removal will be having on Nigerians. Now, we are not having conversations on subsidy removal anymore, because the same federal government has come back through the process before coming up with that decision. Now, so the president is still saying, is still hampering on the fact that, look, they have started making arrangements for this $800 million. So why not just allow us to go through with it and also use it, you know, to give 5,000 naira each to 10.2 million poor and low income households for a period of 6 months, with a multiplier effect on about 60 million individuals. Now, the question will be, how do we get to select the 10.2 million poor and low income households? And then what would 5,000 naira do for these set of people?
What would 5,000 naira do? That's a big question. It can't even take you, that you're very prudent and you're not trying to be wasteful and you're not doing overboard. 5,000 will take you, plus or minus, for some people, it will take you 2 days. That's you're really being prudential. You know, and then the federal government is saying the allowance, you know, to take care of themselves. It doesn't make sense. And I'm like, that 5,000 naira, every family can hustle it. If we don't have a job and we decide that all of us want to go and carry blocks, we'll be able to make for a day's job at least 3,500. If I do that work again tomorrow, I have another 3,500. In 2 days, I have made 7,000 naira. Why wait for the government to give me 5,000 naira? In a month, more working opportunities in the country. We just have misplaced priorities. We are ill-advised with policies and, you know, steps that we even take in an attempt to mitigate the problems of Nigerians. So and then when you also look at the clause to the fact that the $800 million borrowing is going to be done because of some of the inference that have been put inside, is just a major problem at this time.
It is a major problem. And just to add to all of this borrowing issues, just recently now, the budget office, of course, of the Federation, led by the General, Director General now, Ben Akabueze, was saying that, look, Nigeria is gradually Tony Eze. Hello?
Okay, I think we lost that particular call. Please feel free. The phone lines are still open for you to reach us and make your contribution on the various issues that we are raising on the floor of Rise and Shine this morning.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Tony Eze.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Good morning, sir.
Okay. Good morning. It's Tony calling from Benue State.
Yes, we know. We know. Good morning, Mr. Eze.
Good morning. Well, if you want to remove subsidy, why can't you build at least one refinery that will be refining crude oil and refine it to Nigerians to make it? Just some days for them to leave office and you want to borrow. Who is going to share that money? So I think those people, they thought that Nigerians are lazy people and we are foolish that we don't know anything. We are not foolish. We are not lazy people. Nigeria has been existed before they came into government. And then we know how we manage our life. Any condition we find ourselves, we manage our life. This cashless policy that central bank brought in, if it is in some country, you will see disaster there. But Nigeria absorb all this situation and then life goes on. If they will borrow, let them borrow and build a refinery. Don't share it to Nigerians, because Nigerians, we are people that are serious-minded people. We are not beggars that are begging governments to share money for us. I think this is the worst government so far. Since I was born into this country, this is the worst government I've ever experienced. Quite unfortunate.
Quite unfortunate. Good morning, Tony Eze. I like the last thing he said, that he thinks that is the worst administration he has experienced since he was born into this country. You know, but it's a sorry situation. Like he said, when you borrow this money, who is going to there's going to be guidelines. Like you said, how are they going to be able to adjudicate who gets the money? Just a matter of, okay, if you think that this is really necessary, the days are really short, Janice. Why not keep recommendations of projects that you were almost doing, you know, hand it over to the next government? Oh, we think that this are the projects that we were handling but couldn't take off because, you know, our time in office was over. But we would like for you to, you know, treat with urgency, review in your administration if you think it is worthy of, you know, going ahead with, you know, put urgent on the file, move it to the next administration. There's a problem with being hasty. you know. This is last minute rush. It can go bad in any length. Now, the opportunity of people in this administration are also winding up with, you know, with the leadership of the Buhari-led administration, and you're trying to sign off monies to this. We are borrowing, not that we are taking it out of monies that we generated as a country.
Now, the question will be, if this particular $800 million is being approved by the National Assembly, and obviously it is given to, you know, the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, fantastic. 5,000 naira for 10.2 million household. Now, who is going to audit how that money was spent and whether it was used judiciously to achieve the objective that they're saying that, you know, they have actually put out for.
What indices have we used to to measure
audit
vulnerable
when
families
you are leaving? Okay, maybe they would say that yes, there are documents. You know, how would you be asking for such amount of money on your way out of governance? You know, it like you said, it calls
the risk is really high.
Yes, it's high, because it's more like, oh, let's just get this money's shite and put into our pockets and all of that and just move. More like
further plunging the country
to
waste.
And I don't know, I really don't know, and I'm still pondering if, you know, when we come up with these borrowing policies, or when we come up with this asking for such monies, we are not comparing it with economists to know exactly how it will further benefit the country or further plunge the country. Because we are having a very, very serious situation of even the debt office now, saying that, look, we are exceeding our window of borrowing. And what this is going to be doing for the economy of the country is not good. And yet we have a president that...
What is the National Assembly really doing when the DMO is going to forward their report to the National Assembly saying, hey, there's a red alert here.
Exactly.
We are exceeding our borrowing limit. And then the president sends you another document to borrow. Is the National Assembly not sitting to advise the government in the things that can be done or not? I mean, like we've continued to say, there were a lot of gaps in the 9th Assembly. We do hope that the 10th Assembly will be different. But you cannot keep having reports. You know, people will go take the time, do the work, send the reports, but you disregard it and do what you want to do nonetheless. I think that, you know, the National Assembly is serving as an advisory body for the president. It is where you say, okay, the president sends, you know, a demand, a request, and the National Assembly says, we have sat down as legislators and we have reviewed this. It is not good for the country, so we cannot go ahead to do this. Let's look for other ways to alleviate, you know, the sufferings that Nigerians may go through upon subsidy removal, instead of borrowing again to add on our, you know, our borrowing burden. When we are even talking about our borrowing burden, what are the systems that we are using to repay all the other ones that we have borrowed, so that we are leaving, you know, the limit line that we are already encroaching into? So there's a lot of question with regards to this. Would in government let us do what is best for the nation, so that we have a generation, we have a nation to hand over to the next generation. Really, don't sell our children's future borrowing today. It doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't make sense. That's how EI has put it this morning, and that's absolutely the truth. It doesn't make sense at all. But our phone lines are still open. If you want to give your contributions, please do well to do that. But at this point, I think we would just take a very short breather now. There was a particular headline on the Nashi came back from France after.
I like the way the other one, the headline put it, said again.
You know, when you calculate, you know, how many days he spent in France, and you calculate how many days he has come back since he came back, and how many days he's leaving again, it just doesn't, you know, add up to, okay, so why did you even come back in the first place? You'd have just stayed there and do whatever it is you want to do. And then when you come back, you know that, yes, you're coming back for the work and all of that. But it's surprising to see that, you know, he has jetted out of the country again. Of course, according to his media aides, to have high-profile meetings.
He's hitting the ground running.
Yes,
it was the promise.
But the question Nigerians will ask is, why not have your business meetings in the country that you want to govern? Why take it outside the country to, you know, have business meetings and all of that? Anyways, I would also say that, you know, Nigeria is not totally dependent on its own. You have allies, you have people that are countries, you know, that you have diplomatic relationships with. So Okay, he's going to do like foreign high profile, just like they put it, and all of that's supposed to form part of our focus conversation this morning. So we'll just take a breather and try to see how to link up with our guests from Abuja, and of course we'll be right back with this conversation. Just stay with us.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai and Yekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Navigate Relationships and Family Life in the 21st Century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Welcome back. This is still Rise and Shine, and we are live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Several conversations have already gone on. Catch up on all our social media platforms. At this time, we need to push forward a strong conversation this morning. We are looking at governance and the excess travel of the president-elect. We can even backtrack and look at how the travels of the sitting president affected governance. What are we about to experience again? This is a conversation we want to have this morning. And joining us to have this conversation this morning is Dr. Omar Tanko Yakasai, who is grassroots coordinator for
Tinubu Shetima Campaign Council.
Okay, so we have you joining us virtually this morning. Good morning, Dr. Yakasai. Good to have you on Rise and Shine again.
Good morning. How are you?
We're very fine, thank you. How is Abuja this morning?
Can you hear me well?
Absolutely clear. How is Abuja this morning?
All right.
You're actually on the move.
It's morning. You got to get to work and do things.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for obliging us your time on set this morning. But just like Uyai had said, yes, a very strong conversation that we need to have. Of course, we've seen that brows have started raising for the constant travel of President-elect Bola Asiwaju Tinubu. But before we even get to that, I would like to ask a question. I know it's been a while that we had you on our show, and from all of the elections to even him coming out as the winner is actually described as what's that word now, as treasonable now. But in your sincere and unbiased opinion, what do you think about the inauguration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the next president of Nigeria?
Okay, looks frozen. Dr. Yakasai, can you hear us? Okay, we think that network is frozen.
Maybe network is having its way in our conversation this morning, but serious conversations, and I think we really need to look at how the turn of events is going when we say that yes, we have a president, and 1 minute the president is in the country, and the next minute say that if you calculate how many times the president has left the country for medical tourism. Now let's not even talk about the maybe meetings, official travels that he's made, but for medical reasons, you know that it's quite a number. And when the president is not in the country like that, you know how governance gets to suffer. And we are beginning to see that more like a replay for the president-elect, and is raising a lot of concerns, especially given the fact that before now Nigerians have always questioned the capacity of the president-elect and his health concerns and health challenge, which really he's as fit as a fiddle and all of that, but it gives room for concern. And when we see that yes, after the elections, traveled to France, spent over a month in France, yes, according to them, trying to recuperate from all of the hazards, that was accompanied by the elections and all of that and campaigns. You find, okay, fine, yes, he needs to rest and all of that. But again, it's really cause for concern.
Yeah, it's a matter of concern, and because more like Nigerians are asking this with other world leaders. I think that's a really good place to start from. Compare our own leaders with other world leaders. You find out that presidents of most nations rarely travel, to other countries of the world. Rarely. You can calculate, I can't even remember how many places Donald Trump traveled to in his 4 years as president of the United States, or how many places Joe Biden has traveled to, in his almost 4 years of being president of the United States. You find out that these things are not, they don't just hop and get on, the Nigerian Air Force plane that takes them out. They have the medical facilities within their country to take care of their health needs.
The physicians are close by.
Yes, because part of the primary problems that we have with our leaders is that they go outside the country for a state-of-the-art medical center that there is nothing that the president and the vice president will need for their health needs that cannot be at the best of the best facilities there. That is why Aso Rock was created in the first place, to make sure that he is comfortable, throughout his administration. So we're looking at a lot of things. And then another concern is that we treat with levity the fact that our presidents can just hop and go. They can just hop and travel. I think that's like a major concern. That has the head on his neck to carry the saddle of responsibility, a good head on his neck to carry the responsibility. What would the country have been like every time President Muhammadu Buhari traveled during his administration? Thankfully, he has a really, admirable vice president. Now, Bola, to leave our time and days to find that out, in a situation where we see that, Bola Tinubu travels a lot, as much as, Buhari traveled in his time, President Buhari did in his time. We'd have to find that out. With Shetima, as the vice president-elect, now vice president as of that time, we used to hear about President Muhammadu Buhari. He is duly briefed of all things going on in the country.
Yeah.
We have moved files from Aso Rock and given to him wherever he is in the world to sort governing us from diaspora. It's him.
I'm sorry, the network keeps
interfering,
logging me out. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
That's
good
fine.
Yeah. So we are just talking about no, there was a particular question you wanted to start.
What would be your candid and unbiased opinion about the inauguration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the 29th of May? Now, let's not also forget that a lot of protest has been going on. A lot of utterances have been made where the federal government has described some as very treasonable.
Thank you for having me. I would like to say that Tinubu's victory in the 2023 general election was decisive, in the sense that the difference between the first and the second, which is APC and PDP, was around 2 million votes. And secondly, APC won its 25% in 29 states. And we also, if you could remember, lost even their states in the presidential election, only happened to bring the minimum 25% requirement. So it was an election that we keep saying was credible, in the sense that people who ought to have rigged and win were unable to do so. And therefore, those who have won fairly and squarely. And the option available to any Democrat is to go to the court and file his case in tribunal, which is expected in every election. And that's what we are saying. If you lose and you feel that you ought to take the opportunity given to you by the Constitution, do so. Now, once people go to court, it's expected that they will seize any action, any option that is not on the basis of the Constitution. So if you're on the street, in the Constitution, if you are calling for lack of swearing in of any of the elected officials in the 2023 general election, it's also not part of the constitutionally provided options for you. So if anybody is doing anything contrary to the laid down rules and regulations based on the Constitution, Electoral Act and guidelines. He's simply calling for the application of the law on him or her to draw the line of a situation where you do not have a smooth transition from one president to the next, which is what they are calling for. So I think if you call for an interim government, it is clearly defined in the Constitution and in the law of Nigeria that it's treason. It is not you and I that is saying in the Constitution, it's the law of the land. You can't have interim government because it's not provided for in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You can't prevent a swearing in of an democratically elected president on May 29 or any governor because it's not provided for in the Constitution. So all those who are doing protests knew within their heart that that is wrong. The protest isn't wrong, it's what they are calling for and demanding in the protest that is wrong. You can decide to show your displeasure with the result on the street, no problem. But once you want to interrupt a transition, then the protest becomes illegal and the demand becomes treasonable. So we need to separate the two. Democracy allows for protest, but it is what you say and what you demand that make the protest legal or illegal. You can, if I offend you, you are trespassing. So there is a thin line between operating within the law and operating outside the law. And it is the things you say that matter in court. You know, so the Constitution has defined certain things that you cannot demand for, that you cannot ask for, because it amounts to an offense and it may border on criminality. So I believe that in this country, we will have a smooth transition May 29, because protests cannot prevent inauguration, it cannot prevent handing over. If protests, if violence in some of the areas have not prevented election, casting of vote. In Northwest where you have banditry, in Northeast where you have Boko Haram, in the Southeast where you have unknown government, all these areas I'm talking about, people had the opportunity to cast their vote.
Okay. It's
so there is no amount of protest that will prevent transition. That's my take.
Okay, so it's good to know that we are expecting a smooth transition and inauguration on May 29. I think that is fair enough. We've continued to hear that that day remains sacrosanct. But then let's tilt a little bit so that we don't run against time. The Buhari-led administration, we saw a lot that President Muhammadu Buhari traveled. Now, we are not talking about just, you know, the travels for official assignments where he has to preside issues. And it amounted to a lot of time in his administration. Some quarters say if you calculate the amount of time that President Muhammadu Buhari, you know, traveled, it could amount to a year out of his 8-year tenure. And that has been a problem that has not sat very well with Nigerians. But we are dragging it straight to the fact that Bola Asiwaju Tinubu is just about to come into governance as the president of the Federal Republic. And we can already account for how his travel energy looks like. Yesterday, he jetted out of the country to the United Kingdom for what has been called to the country to concentrate on everything that will make sure that we have a smooth transition, you know, during the inauguration. The concern is all of this travel, how is it going to affect governance?
All right, thank you. We need to recognize that our state of health is not under our control. As people who believe in religion, who believe in faith, I know I can be healthy now and the next 5 minutes I can have medical conditions that require me to go to the hospital. So let us accept that it is part of human nature to be healthy at a point in time and to be sick at the end of time. And nobody is exempted, elected, or the leaders or the led. So let's always remember that in our mind. I want to say that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, if you remember, I was part and parcel of majority of the town hall meetings that took place around the 36 states of the Federation and FCT. Some of the tours that took place during the presidential, mental and otherwise abilities. and it is tasking, it is demanding. President Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu elect was able to go to 36 of the FCT, Nigeria and the FCT, attended several event town hall meetings, had so many meetings within the campaign structure, different stakeholders in this person that has had this extraneous activity will, of course, take a break to rest after this extraneous exercise. So, Asuwaju or not Asuwaju, anybody who is involved in that, even I myself, as long as I am, I needed that rest. So, Asuwaju flying outside the country is to take a rest after a well-fought and campaigned election, and we needed to rest. And if you rest, a giant like Nigeria on your shoulders, there's nothing wrong if you avail yourself to medical checkup or whatever. So it is within the right of every individual. Okay. Now, secondly, it's not only about resting. You know, because the election has been dragged towards February, March, you have limited time before you will take over much of leadership on May 29. And so then, how have you fared in the first 100 days in office? If you made until May 29 to begin to plan how to hit the ground running, they are not likely to meet the media's target of 100 days in office achievement. So while he's resting, he's also using the opportunity to plan for his transition, plan for his... It is normal. And I don't want Nigerians to think that he's jetting out just on the medical ground only. Okay, there are other things that will benefit the country.
Yeah, in as much as...
even this trip that he made. Pardon?
So in as much as we know that there is money spent in all of these trips, and why can't we have a health system in our country that can cater for the health needs of our presidents within the country? Dr. Yakasai, you're a medical doctor. Why is the medical facility at Aso Rock non-functional?
All right, since we are talking about the president-elect, this is the first time that Asuwaju will be assuming the mantle of leadership of this country come May 29. And therefore, in his manifesto, he has medical services needed by Nigerians can be provided in Nigeria. And so, you cannot place on Asuwaju all challenges in the health sector, since he was never the president of this country. But now he is going to be, and he has promised to address them in terms of health, infrastructure, in terms of manpower, in terms of policy, in terms of drug, in terms of readiness and preparedness for disaster. All these things he said he's going to do.
I think I need to come in here, sir. I think I need to come in here, sir. Now, Uya's question is more like a general question right now. When we say that the health sector is failing, it is because the president-elect is coming to also meet a health sector that is epileptic. Now, we also know that from her introduction, he needs to check his teeth. Now, if the Aso Rock Clinic was viable with top-of-the-art infrastructure in that place, I don't think that the president will be spending an extra 1 week in the UK just to check his teeth. He has his personal physicians. Why can't they be Nigerians? So if we are saying that happened in the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, we'll definitely see that happen for Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu.
All right, so I want to tell you that in the medical profession, skills are something that medical care that is provided globally. Nigeria is working towards it, but it requires exposure of the medical personnel to such level of care. And when you are transferring skills, there are two ways about it. It's either the professionals come down to Nigeria for a period of time and transfer these skills to the Nigerian doctor, or Nigerian doctors travel abroad and practice. If you go abroad to practice, it requires you to have license for you to be able to practice your care. So that takes time. And those professionals who are outside, if they need to come back to Nigeria and provide services, there are also certain regulations. So I'm trying to tell you that the skills that
we need to travel outside the we need to travel outside the country to get such skills. It's laughable.
Let me tell you, the level of care and skills that are graded. Nigerian professionals are highly skilled to an extent, and you have to just get them outside because it takes time to be able to acquire those skills, and you have to have the exposure. Every day, healthcare is evolving. Genesis. Every day, healthcare is evolving. Medical treatment, medical care, and those who do the research to improve healthcare reside in some of these advanced countries. And you have to have a certain level of exposure to be able to acquire those skills. I am a medical doctor. I know Genesis. So medical practitioners are doing well.
Okay.
But there are certain skills that I am assuring you that have to be acquired outside the country. If Nigeria is comparable to the US and UK, we won't be talking about this.
All right.
But you know the challenges in Nigeria, and you cannot compare the level of advancement of medical care, US, UK, or Europe with Nigeria. It's a gradual process.
Okay.
It's a gradual process.
All right. We want to say a very big thank you to you. From what we have garnered so far from this conversation, it is okay for our president-elect to take a rest and recoup, and of course come back to the country and make sure that yes, we hit the ground running, so that at the next time we're talking about 100 days in office, we're talking about tangible results from the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Thank you so much, Dr. Umatanku Yakasaya, for your time with us this morning. We'll definitely come back to you again in the course of our conversations. You can take on our show this morning. Thank you so much, Doctor.
We have so much more that we would have told Dr. Yakasai, but we have to let it be, because that's a lot of insightful, exciting thing. Yeah, right. So, all right, so no problem. So, but then we'll just let go now. Thank you to everyone who called in on the show this morning, for our production team, every contribution. We absolutely appreciate you. Let's do this again tomorrow. My name is Uyai Anyakan.
And my name is Janice Kobun. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for being a part of us.